I realized they were outsourcing my job when I found my own resignation letter, already signed, sitting in my manager's drafts folder. Not written by me, not even written by a human, auto-generated by the same AI system I had trained for months. And apparently, I was scheduled to submit it tomorrow at 9 a.m. That was the moment I knew my company wanted me gone, and that they thought I'd go quietly. They didn't know me at all. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. My name is Aralyn Voss, Senior Documentation Engineer at Soliton Dynamics, or at least I was. I'm the one who built every internal knowledge system they relied on: architecture guides, migration maps, API patterns, edge case checklists, incident protocols. If Soliton was a human body, I wrote the circulatory system. I held the map. And they were planning to delete me to save 60% by outsourcing to a cheaper offshore vendor. Their words, not mine. I saw them in the budget notes. But I didn't scream, I didn't cry, I didn't confront them. I decided to make sure that when they removed me, they'd have no idea what they were unplugging. Because the betrayal wasn't just the firing, it was who orchestrated it. It was Rufin, my own director, the man who begged me 6 months earlier to fix the chaos he'd created. I'd stayed late nights, built him a structure, saved his department from collapsing. He repaid me by handing my job to strangers who didn't even know what we built. The next morning, I pretended everything was normal. I sat quietly at my desk while the team group chat exploded with confusion. Anyone heard about the outsourcing? Are we losing DevOps? Why is the vendor asking for root access? Rufin posted a calm, polished message. Transition is in progress. No disruptions expected. Liar. I already knew I had 24 hours before the vendor received my full documentation package, the one the company believed would make onboarding seamless. There was just one detail missing. I hadn't written it yet. The first bomb dropped at 10:15 a.m. when they called an all-hands meeting in the glass conference room. Everyone shuffled inside nervously. Rufin entered looking too proud, too rehearsed, and beside him stood the vendor team on a video call. 3 people who looked like they had no idea what they were about to walk into. Rufin cleared his throat. I'd like to announce that our knowledge systems will be transitioned to our partners at NextBridge. This will improve efficiency and reduce operational costs by 60%. He stopped, because I raised my hand. He didn't like that. Yes, Aralyn, he said sharply. What documentation did you send them? I asked. His jaw tightened. Your documentation? No, I replied. My drafts. The room went silent, because everyone understood what I meant. Drafts are never meant for human consumption. Drafts are half-built, raw, tangled notes. They are scaffolding, not structures. Rufin forced a smile. Everything you've built is clean and complete. No, I said again. Everything I've built is clean and complete when I decide it is. You pulled my workspace without telling me. You don't know what state it was in. A flicker of panic crossed his face. The vendor on screen shifted uncomfortably. I sat back, calm and quiet. I didn't need to fight. I only needed to watch the seed land. By afternoon, the vendor requested clarification on 98 separate items. Everything from the architecture to the onboarding flow to the error state handling. Basic things, foundational things, things Rufin told them would be polished. That was twist 1. Twist 2 arrived faster than I expected. At 4:03 p.m., I received an email not meant for me. It was a reply thread from the vendor team. Someone had misspelled my name in the address field, and it reached me by accident. I read it slowly. We cannot complete this transition. The documentation is inconsistent, incomplete, and in several places contradictory. Is this intentional? Do they not want us to take over? This system relies on knowledge not written anywhere. We need a meeting with original engineer. Original engineer? Me. I grinned. They had no idea how bad it was yet. Because the drafts weren't just drafts, they were decoys. Months earlier, when rumors of restructuring first started, I created 2 doc systems, the real one and the illusion of one. The illusion was what the company saw. Clean titles, professional diagrams, logical folder names, but no substance. The real one lived in a private branch, encrypted, version locked to my personal key. Every company underestimates documentation until they need it. Then it becomes oxygen. And Soliton had just cut their own air supply. The next morning, the storm truly began. The entire engineering Slack erupted with vendor complaints. This workflow doesn't match actual behavior. Endpoints don't exist. Mappings contradict API schema. Database diagrams have missing tables. Rufin tried to spin it. We're simply ironing out details. But team leads started pushing back. We can't support them. We don't understand what they're asking. They need the original systems author. By noon, I was called into a support huddle. I played dumb. I said things like, "Strange, that should be correct," and "Maybe the system changed since I last touched it." I watched 3 managers glance at each other with growing dread, because the truth was sinking in. They didn't know how anything worked without me, and the vendor certainly didn't. That afternoon, the biggest twist dropped. At 2:12 p.m., the build pipeline failed globally, a full cascading crash, something that hadn't happened once in the last 3 years. Developers scrambled like ants. Operations froze. The vendor demanded console access they weren't authorized to have. Everything burned at once. Finally, someone ran to my desk. "Aralyn, do you know what's wrong?" I swiveled my chair slowly. "Let me guess, the migration daemon failed?" "How did you know?" "Because I wrote the daemon, and I wrote the workaround, and I wrote the fallback protocol, and those instructions weren't included anywhere except the real documentation. The fake docs mentioned the daemon, then referenced a completely imaginary auto-recovery tool. They had believed it." "Can you fix it?" the developer asked desperately. I shook my head. "Not as an employee." His eyes widened. I stood, grabbed my bag, and walked to the glass conference room. Inside, the vendor team sat with Rufin, on a live call. Everyone looked exhausted, sweaty, afraid. I knocked, opened the door, stepped inside. No smile, no softness, just truth. "You replaced me," I said, "with people who can't do my job." Rufin swallowed. "Aralyn, we simply made a business decision. And I'm making one now." I placed a folder on the table. It had only 3 pages. Page 1, my official resignation letter, one I wrote myself. Page 2, a consultancy offer with my rates. Page 3, a list of everything currently broken. The vendor's lead leaned forward. "We can't do this without her. This entire system is undocumented." I corrected him. "No, it's documented, but only by me and only in the version I control." Rufin's face drained of color. "Are you blackmailing us?" he whispered.
"No," I said calmly. "I'm educating you about value." The room stayed silent for a long time. Finally, the vendor said, "We withdraw from the contract, effective immediately." I almost laughed. They didn't even last 2 days. Rufin panicked. "You can't pull out," he shouted. "We can," the vendor replied. "Your company isn't ready for outsourcing, and your engineer," he nodded toward me, "is the only one who understands your infrastructure." The call disconnected. Just like that. But the best part was still ahead. The following week, Soliton Dynamics fell into chaos. Projects halted, clients complained. The CTO demanded answers. 3 directors interrogated Rufin until his voice cracked. And everyone finally realized the truth. The system wasn't broken. The people trying to steal it from me were. The CTO personally called me with an offer to return. a higher salary, remote work, expanded authority. I declined because my revenge wasn't finished yet. I'll return, I said, but not as an employee, as an external architect, contract only, my terms. He asked what my terms were, so I sent him the list. Triple my old salary, full control of documentation versions, no direct manager over my work, 1-year guaranteed contract, no outsourcing without my written approval, and removal of the person responsible for the attempted transition. I didn't say Rufin's name. I didn't have to. The CTO fired him the next morning. He left the building carrying a cardboard box while I walked in wearing sunglasses and a calm smile, meeting with the executive team in a private room. That was the moment my revenge became complete. They tried to outsource me to save 60%. They ended up paying 340% more just to keep the lights on. And the vendor? They eventually sent a private note. Your documentation is the most complex system design we've ever seen. Whoever tried to replace you is either arrogant or blind. Maybe both. I didn't stay with Soliton forever. I didn't need to. My contract finished a year later, and I moved on to better companies, ones that respected the invisible labor that keeps everything functioning. But before I left, I updated the documentation one last time. I added a line at the very top. If you're reading this, hire your documentation engineers before you fire them. Because nobody ever forgets the person who writes the manual for how the world works. And nobody replaces her twice. If you enjoy the story, kindly hit the like button, comment, and subscribe.